All right. Get everything going. Oh, there we are. Hello, everybody. This is Aaron2u2. I'm back with The Magic of Scheherazade, a action RPG for the NES. It's a hybrid game, and so you'll see. I will try to avoid all of the RPG elements as much as possible, and just try to beat the game as quickly as possible. So, as you'd imagine, the RPG stuff can be a little slow. With me on comms is Synth Pop is back. Say hello, Synth.
Darn right it is.
Alright, so Karanya asked us to help. She is the Time Spirit. Very important to remember her name, Karanya. If we say no, it makes us.
Say but thou must.
Yeah,
There's a couple of those.
So, anyway, the timer starts here when I hit class selection. We will be picking Magician. Synth will get into that in a little bit. And we'll start here in 3, 2, 1, and go.
Yeah, let me give a little bit of background on the story here. They give like a little bit at the very beginning before you even pick your class and all that, but this game takes place across a couple of different worlds in the land of Arabia, and at some point in the past, you or your ancestor, the great magician Isfa, we don't really know, defeated the great evil Gora, and then was thrown through time and lost their memory and blah blah blah, and you end up here. And you've got this Mr. Blue guy, the wizard Sabaron, who's kidnapped 4 princesses and their father, King Faisal, and you have to go through each world and rescue them all. And it's good stuff. There's Zelda-style exploration, there's Dragon Warrior style random encounters, which we will hopefully see like none of, but maybe 2 of or so. And right now Aaron's going for a little bit of a manipulation to try and make sure that we miss as many of those as possible. Looks like the game didn't quite cooperate. You need to take damage at a certain time in order to stop some variables that are running in the background, and it looks like that didn't quite. Maybe worked. I don't know.
We'll see.
A minute 22 is like right on the edge, I think.
The timers do stop, or the counters stop when you're in between screens, which helps too. But I'm trying to keep a count of how many enemies I've fought, because that's also important for this. Yeah,
there's a kind of rolling counter of how many enemies you've killed in a row without taking damage, and it resets. It's somewhat familiar, I think, to people. Mm-hmm. But instead of influencing what items you get, it influences whether or not you get a random encounter. And so here we are at the time door. We're going 50 years back into the past to pick up a companion. So every chapter has a certain number of companions that you have to get to join your party, with one notable exception, because we skipped most of that chapter. It's alright. My throat decided to start acting up like immediately when you started the run. Hold on 1 second.
No worries, man. I'm not going to pause the run for you, though. That's not how it works. So, pardon the button smashing. This is just how I'm used to doing it. Used to fighting for every little fraction of a second, which includes mashing through menus. This part, I am going to a university where I am buying a weapon upgrade. That's not the point of the course. I ignored the course, but that's the result, is that I get a weapon upgrade, which I will need to make the boss a little easier. If I could skip it, I would, but I don't replace this weapon for a few chapters, and that would be a disaster if I tried to. You know what? I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, the Chapter 2 boss in particular, I mean, neither of them would be easy, the Chapter 1 or Chapter 2 bosses, but Chapter 2 would be particularly terrible to fight with the original rod. Mm-hmm. So I guess while we've got some time, he's just heading to a town in order to get the first companion. You've noticed that there is a class system. The class system doesn't affect anything like your HP or MP growth or how much experience you need to level or anything like that. All it does is magicians get access to upgraded versions of the rod, which you see he's got the flame now. Fighters get access to the upgraded versions of the sword, and the saint is he just sucks. He's terrible. He's the worst. So we want to be a magician most of this run. Upgraded versions of the rod, give you faster projectiles and more projectiles, and just having that range is good in general. Another rather important thing about this game is that character right there. His name is Beckel. He is the best NPC in the video game. Oh, and also you need a ridiculous amount of money for this run. So you see Aaron is borrowing a large number of rupees. Normally the cap is 400, but we found out a couple of years ago that there is a way to actually get this shopkeeper to give you 500. We're going to use all of it, and then you're going to do a grind later for some more money. You need something approaching 1,200 rupees over the course of the run.
I never thought to count up all of it. It is quite a lot, though.
Yeah, I mean, there's some flexibility in Chapter 4, but it's close to that, if not higher. And here we go, Farouk, the first companion. He's a genie in a bottle.
Yeah.
Carpet back to the town where he got the flame. So he picked up carpets, which obviously let you go back and forth between towns. He picked up breads and mashrooms, which are HP and MP refill items, respectively, and they refill, like when your HP reaches 0, you'll eat a bread and you regain 50. 50 or the max, whichever is lower, I guess. Same thing with MP. And just back to the time door. Back to reality.
Back to life. Back to reality.
And don't forget, Coronia.
Coronia.
Her name is Coronia. I don't know, is she a cat or a mouse? I think she's a cat. She's got pointy ears, right?
I think that's enough. I don't remember what my count is. I think that's enough. Probably. I don't think I want to kill anything here. But I got hit.
Okay, little Inari has confirmed that she's a cat. Thank you very much.
Yeah, because the nya, that means...
Oh, yes. We've actually talked about this before.
So.
She's the Tanya. Yeah.
Don't you want a physical copy of this? You didn't know she was a cat? It says in the manual. Yeah, I'm just messing with you.
I don't have a physical copy of this game.
Oops, got hit. So I've completely messed up the manipulation. So at this point, I'm just hoping for the best to dodge those encounters. You got to see one of them a minute ago, but I was able to get out of it right away.
So what we needed Farouk for is to be able to get into this town. This is the town where we got Farouk, but we're now 50 years in the future from when we got him. It's flooded. Beckel is still there because he's the best NPC in the video game, and we've got to go to the shop in Horan and buy horns because we're in Horan.
Yes.
And then we got to go and talk to Jamie Farr. Whatever this thing is.
Yes, the flying Jamie Farhead. I both am very pleased with myself and then also regret ever thinking of that.
Yes, I regret that you thought of that as well.
So.
And then back into the water, because it happens that the dungeon for this chapter is just to the left.
You think Waterworld Maroon, and you end up having to go underwater to the Aqua Palace.
Who'da thunk it? So, as you can see on the screen, there is a photosensitivity warning. This is an extremely, extremely flashy game. I will do my best to try to remember to call out the flashing before it happens, but with the nature of like stream delay and all that kind of stuff, I can't guarantee that I'll catch them in time all the time. So if you have photosensitivity issues, it may be in your best interest to watch this out of the corner of your eye. You see, he gets into an encounter with these two Amories, but was able to escape. The game is very kind and allows you to attempt escaping 3 times before you actually get stuck in the fight.
To the best of our knowledge, that escape rate is straight up 50%. That might not be true, but that's how it seems.
And it is frame-based. So it's really unlikely for you to get stuck in a fight, but I shouldn't say things because then bad things happen.
Got out.
Okay, good to go. So we needed to get to level 3 for this chapter. Needed access to Boltor 1 for this boss fight, which is coming up, and photosensitivity warning starting now.
Yeah, here is where the flashing. This is how we beat the boss. This is with extensive flashing.
Yeah, see, the boss is made of eyes, and we take advantage of its photosensitivity. So he's going to cast this Boltor spell a bunch of times, kill these eyes, and then that'll be the second phase, and that'll be the end of Chapter 1.
Yeah, I don't have enough time to get through them. Yeah, the amount of time I have is very limited, and if I keep attacking the eyes, they'll cast Thunder on me as a counterattack. So they don't do it in response to magic, though.
And the first eye, you can hit it twice without it doing it.
Got it.
Nice. Yeah, so there's like there's a small area, I think it's a whole tile, maybe a quarter of a tile, where you can stand, and it screws up the targeting for that right eye. Makes it much easier to dodge those shots.
Could say I was in its blind spot.
You could. Sorry. I should have. Okay, so at the end of every chapter, the princess or somebody, whoever it is, puts you to the maximum level for that chapter. It's 5 per chapter, so go all the way up to 5. One of the kind of interesting things about that is it means that you can't really, with the exception of the last chapter, you can't save time by like not gaining levels. Purely based on like the level up fanfare, you have to go through them every time.
Right. It's generous to speedrunners in that sense, in that since it gives you all the levels, you can't be ultra under leveled at any point.
Yeah, low percent run of this is actually pretty much what we do, right?
Yeah.
We gain 1 level in Chapter 5 that is not necessary. So he's going to do a little bit of grinding here to get up close to level 7.
Oops.
And the game also, the developers did a really good job of making sure that you couldn't, like, skip things like companions. There's no way to skip Farouk. There's no way to skip Keebaboo. It turns out that there are 2 companions in this chapter that it is possible to skip. You can just kind of Zelda 1 your way through the maze forest thing, maze desert or whatever, and skip like 2/3 of this chapter, which is kind of awesome because the part of this chapter that you would have to go do is really, really annoying.
So there is an encounter manipulation that I was trying to do, but I took so long that I probably missed my window. But we'll see.
It's tough. It depends on those sand beasts spawning.
I also did it very poorly. I use a different controller for this game than I did for the previous one I was playing. Just because I'm used to this and I haven't been able to get good with the other one. And it messed up my direction inputs a little bit, but that might just be me making excuses.
Are you running on a GameCube controller?
No.
Okay.
The world record in this that I used to have was on a GameCube controller, but I've retired that because it actually had greater lag due to the thing that it was going through.
Yeah.
It also was not good for playing Zelda 2, by the way. I don't know if anyone thought that that would be a good idea. I did. That was proven to be wrong.
Bonnie's like, no way. GameCube controller's not good for Zelda 2? What?
Yes. So I did actually have the manip going. How about that? I got
Oh,
out of the
nice.
first two.
Nice. That antlion was very nice to you. So yeah, at this point, we need to get to, what is it, 780 experience but before the end of this chapter, and we need one companion, and that's it. So this is a good time, I guess, to talk about the way that drops work. I don't know the numbers for how many drops need to happen for these things, but there's two types of drops. There's regular coins, single coins, and then there's like special drops that are either a money bag, which is 20 coins, or an HP drink, which refills 50 HP, or an MP drink, or 20, right?
20, yep.
Yeah. HP drink that refills 20, or MP drink that refills 20. And they go in the order money bag, HP drink, money bag, MP drink, money bag, so on and so forth. Obviously, since we need like 1,200 coins for this run, you want to pick up as many money bags as you see drop. Ideally, in this chapter, you would pick up an MP drink right before this boss. It's not necessary, but it just feels good to do it. And oh wow, we got an ARG. It may be the first time that's ever happened in a marathon. It's never happened before, but photosensitivity warning is coming up, and it's quite a doozy.
Yes. This is Curly, and Curly requires even more flashing to beat. So I will be casting a spell 8 times before she will change forms, and then I will cast it 5 more times because it's good for doing damage. So if you haven't looked away already, just count to 13 on the sound effects.
It's interesting to note that you need Eppin to be able to get to the second form of Curly, but you cannot damage Curly without that spell. If you're not level 7 when you enter that room, you just have to leave the room. Thankfully, Kibabu, the second companion from Chapter 1, gives you a ring that you can use to leave.
Mm-hmm. The game is somewhat nice to you in some aspects, like that.
Yeah, it's an odd mix of forgiving and not. That is a pretty good break.
If none of the top arms respawn, which they did not.
Nice. Yeah, so these arms respawn. You're actually aiming for like the joint in between her main body and the arm that's going up and down. Every time you cast that Flammel spell, she casts like a healing magic and can resurrect those arms. That was actually a fairly good fight, I think.
Trying to take the mashing volume away from the mic as much as possible. Straight up put the controller
thing down by your knees.
Take it under the table. Don't listen. And there's another one. You might.
What are these people on your carpet? I don't understand.
Yes. We skipped recruiting those people, and but they're still there. The game doesn't know how to comprehend us doing that.
That's an actual cutscene. It's the NES version of an FMV. So chapter 3 is the only chapter where you go to the future, and otherwise is pretty straightforward. It's just you got to go to the future, get some companions, do blah blah blah. But this is going to be the first time that we actually see him change out of the magician class. You do have to be both a saint and a fighter at some point during this run for story reasons. and this is the first time that you have to do it. He will be not a magician for something approaching 2 minutes, I think.
This is it's not a terribly unsafe portion of the game, but it's not pleasant, just because the Saint gets none of the bonuses that the Magician or the Fighter do, and the bonuses they get are almost completely irrelevant to me.
Yes, and one of those bonuses is completely irrelevant because we skipped the thing that gives you that bonus in Chapter 2. The Saint is supposed to be immune to damage from damage tiles after Chapter 2, or, well, after the midpoint of Chapter 2. But we skipped that entirely, so...
I do want to point out that I actually got the manipulation at the beginning of Chapter 3 done correctly.
Nice.
That almost never happens.
So you got the Chapter 2 overworld manip and the Chapter 3 one. That's pretty
Yes.
good. So yeah, he's popping into this university. He's got to take another course. Whenever you take a course in this game, always make sure it's the comm course, because that's what gives you the thing that you need. And this is going to be a suit of armor that halves the amount of damage that he takes. Pretty nifty. I don't want to even really contemplate trying to beat this game without this armor in the speed run at least.
Yes. Theoretically, it's optional, but...
The task doesn't get it, but I mean, that doesn't tell us much. So he's got to be a saint. And you would be able to see this. You'll notice a little bit later. He's going to get an upgraded version of the rod that the saint doesn't have access to. But when he changes back to magician, it'll be quite nice. It's so refreshing to get that thing.
Yes, part of any percent in any game usually means that you're not getting something that would make the game easier. And yeah, we skipped the weapon upgrade in Chapter 2 because it's in the past, and we skipped the past entirely.
Yeah.
The 100% run is something like 15 minutes in Chapter 2, and optimally, Chapter 2 is under 6 minutes in any percent. Forgetting which way to go.
Yeah, there's not a lot of like hints or landmarks or anything on this. You just kind of have to memorize your way through this chapter. But we're gonna go 30 years into the future.
Yes, but we have maps.
Cimarron fruit.
We have made maps for this game. Makes it a lot easier. It would be easier for me if I had them open.
Yes, and those maps even tell you like on what screens you can get encounters and stuff. It's pretty awesome.
Yes, thanks to our Barbaloo, who I think helped make those.
Yes, I believe so.
Oops.
So there's two things here. You have to tell this tree no, because in fact you didn't even talk to it. But if you did talk to it, he would tell you that he'd give you his son. And what he asks you here is, or he says, I will give a saint my son in the future, or whatever. And he says, I promised to give you 3,000 rupees, didn't I? If you say yes, he kicks you out and you have to go back in. And you give him a password that he never gave you in the first place.
Yes, the password is chocolate, which the game doesn't have enough characters for, so it's just chocolat. But much like in life, chocolate is often the answer. We believe that is just specific to the American translation. I've never got far enough in the Japanese version of the game, but there's such a huge overhaul between the two that, yeah, this game is easier in many ways and harder in one very specific one.
One very regrettably specific one.
Yes.
The difference between the Japanese version and the American version of this game is like... It's like the difference between Mario 2 Japan and Doki Doki Panic Mario 2. They're like unrecognizably related games.
I'm going the wrong way.
Yes, you are.
So
we have to take... He gave us... The tree gave us his son, his fruit, and you have to take it to Geppetto, basically, to get it turned into the next companion that we need. It turns out that Geppetto in the future version of the very first town where you start in this chapter, so you've got to go all the way back. It's quite a haul. But when he gets there, he's going to carp it back to the town that he was just in. And you can see now that he's a magician and has the Cimarron rod. He's got 2 projectiles that he can have on screen, and they're much, much faster. And incidentally, they do no damage.
Yep. I'm not getting many enemies at all. Okay, we got these guys. The trees are the biggest threat to anything right now. They bounce around, but they also give a ton of experience. So, but they hit for 9 damage now, and that's after I've got the half damage armor. So yeah, they hit pretty hard. They are rude.
Extremely rude trees. I hate those things.
Whoops. Missed the money bag. Don't really want to do much of that because there is another grind in the next chapter for money, and I would not want to get stuck behind that. But I'm ahead of pace because I did a marathon safety grab with 50 coins earlier that I personally don't do in my runs.
So there's one thing that I want you to notice when he carpets back. So there's 2 different kinds of carpeting. One's between chapters and one is when you just use the carpet. If you just use the carpet, it's just you and Coronia on the carpet. Mm-hmm. Between chapters, it's everybody. But look at that face. That glorious, glorious cat face.
She seems very concerned about what I'm doing. It's one of my favorite screens of enemies right there. They just all line up and just mow them down.
If you let them get loose, they can kind of go wherever they want to, but they always start going right, and you can always kill them fast enough. Sometimes they drop a money bag. It's quite nice.
Get out of the screen!
Okay, so you saw that bee turned into a bat with a single eye. If you leave that bat on the screen too long, it will spawn the Grim Reaper. Mm-hmm. And he will follow you until you either die or leave the chapter. So you might have to drag him through the rest of chapter 3, but he got off the screen fast enough.
Yes, he will even travel between, like he knows how to use the time doors too. And he'll just follow you. You go into town, he'll wait outside. He's patient.
Carpet. He's pretty horrible. So he got Pukin, who's basically a jack-o'-lantern. And coming up, there's going to be a maze where you would have to do the maze in the dark completely if you didn't have Pukin. But now that we have him, it's kind of like having a torch in Dragon Warrior 1. And we got stuck in a fight. Oh my gosh. That's actually
I left the wrong way.
Good.
Okay. So now my encounters are going to be messed up the entire rest of the game. But it should be okay.
Yeah, but getting killed right there, it's not ideal, but that was faster probably than trying to escape. Especially if you got stuck again. And you have generally, you don't have to, but it works out that it's sometimes best to take a death in this chapter anyway, but right before the boss to refill your HP.
Yeah, there's a death abuse factored in, but it's not gonna... I gotta remember my counting now. I don't know where I am on these counters. Which will be a problem if I can't figure it out, because it'll mess up something in the next chapter.
You're 2 ahead.
I know I'm 3 ahead.
3 ahead.
So I got the encounter... No, you're right, 2 ahead. Okay.
So now that he's out of that maze, got to go into this last town here, get one more companion before heading to the Ice Palace, which does have slippery ice physics, because of course it does.
Yep.
That is, it looks like Beckel. It is not Beckel. He is not the best NPC in a video game.
That is a phony.
He's a phony.
He's a dirty phony.
We are also going to take one level in this chapter. He's about 15 experience away, so that'll happen in no time. So every level, it's a set kind of progression, but some levels give you offense power for the rod, some give you offense power for the sword, some give you defense
Flashing.
power.
Said that a little late, I think.
Oh yeah, sorry. But we are specifically looking for offense power for the rod. And yes, there's flashing here. There will be another one coming up soon as well. And then the boss.
Actually hit it. There we go.
I guess now would be a reasonable time to talk about some movement tech stuff too, because I think I saw you jump over that. So when you're in the air, you're immune to damage. So you'll often see us kind of jump over an enemy, or sometimes jump over an enemy onto a damage tile, because damage tiles take priority. So, you know, in those screens with all the evil trees, you could either take like 9 damage from the tree, or 2 damage from the damage tile. There is also a movement grid, somewhat like Zelda 1, where on screen transitions you'll snap to a particular column or row of the grid. And there's a big flashing warning coming up because he's about to fight the boss.
There we go.
I always forget about the wizards. That's the problem.
Alright. I had to heal up just enough to withstand what's going to happen here. But yes, flashing, I even kind of look away a little bit here. But you also see why, because this is the easiest boss in the game.
Yeah, you just need to be above 110 HP, and basically this boss can't really hurt you.
And don't completely botch the last part. Sometimes the RNG can be particularly bad, but so okay.
Yeah,
See, I'm not really paying attention to the game right now. I'm just attacking blindly.
Mostly press B to win.
Yep.
You've got to hit this boss 12 times. He'll retaliate 11 times for 10 damage each, and then you get into the second phase.
Rather than trying to chase him around, we just find a spot in between 2 of his potential things and shoot there. So I'll hit him in the second or the third slot. Like, I know he's going to get hit again from where that is already. And I'm going to start moving left because I know my shot's going to hit him. And there we go.
Yeah, if you stand where he was, it's kind of ideal if he's actually on that left side, so that you can walk to the right and get a little bit more distance. He can walk on top of you, which won't damage you, but if you're inside him, you can't hit him. But there you go, that's chapter 3 done. This is the longest level up sequence, because you've got to get 4 levels. I think it takes about 25 seconds. Which is kind of annoying.
My hand hurts. Alright. Yet another princess.
And on to the completely easy and so free chapter 4.
Maybe she can talk Sabaron to death.
Maybe she can talk Sabaron to death. I love it. I love that line so much. It's so good. It's a very interesting game. You don't see a lot of games, I think, with themes of kind of like medieval Arabia, and it's just so well done. I love how the feather in his hat wobbles, and like there's just all these little details in this game that I think are super great.
Yes, this screen actually occurs 4 times in a row.
Each chapter has like a limited number of kind of screen configurations that can happen.
For the record, that tree jump that I'm doing is unnecessarily risky. It saves a little over a second, but I'm really used to it, so I just still do it anyway.
Yeah, I don't bother. So he's at 0 breads and 0 mushrooms. He's going to want, if you can get it, probably want 10 breads and at least 2 mushrooms, right? You're not counting on a 1-cycle final boss?
Nope. And that was our 8th encounter. So now I know where my numbers are.
That's good to know, yeah. Hopefully you can make use of that. So you had cast Ramapos. Sorry, my stream froze for a second there.
Yes, I cast the spell Ramapos, which gets you out of 7 of the 8 potential encounters. And what you'll see here is a grind spot where I will defeat this thing repeatedly and rob its body.
It has about a 50% chance of dropping a money bag. With the total count of everything that you can get, and including some like optional items, you kind of want somewhere around 430 rupees. You can do with less. I know Aaron does a strat later on that means that you're probably only going to go with like 380. Is that right?
No, I don't even have that many. Let me think again. I need 160 for class changes. I need 30 for carpets. I need 100 for breads. It's 290, so 310.
310, okay.
Yeah. And I will be grinding here till I get a little over 5,800 experience regardless, because I do need to be level 17 to stand a chance at the boss.
Yeah, there are kind of 2 targets here. The 5,800 experience, ideally a little bit more for kind of marathon safety, because you do want to make sure that you get to level 17, and then, the money that you need, which he's basically at now.
Yeah.
I've had kind of exceptional luck on money bag drops there. It's quite nice. And you can reasonably try to do this fight with 8 breads. I wouldn't want to go any less than that, although you could still do it. It's possible to do it and lose none. But the boss of this chapter is, frankly, just a nightmare. And you want to be as prepared for it as possible.
Yes.
At this point, even with Aaron's level of skill, because the fight involves so much RNG, it's really kind of possible. It's like maybe 50% chance that the boss will be unbeatable. We're hoping that doesn't happen, but there are backups in case it does.
Oh, you know what? I should cast this. Because these will be encounters 1 and 2. What I'm talking about with the numbers, when I say the spell Ramapos will skip 7 out of 8 encounters, that's actually in order. So I have to know which one I'm on, because if I get the 8th numbered encounter while I have the spell cast, I will get that encounter. So I have to cast it around that, in a sense.
Yeah, every time you cross over a screen transition that can have a random encounter on it, it increments this variable. And if you have Ramapos up and that variable is 1 through 7, you're good. If it's 8, you automatically get it.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of resets back to 0.
Mm-hmm.
So when he had Ramapos up on the way to that grind and got into an encounter that guaranteed that that was encounter number 8, or encounter screen number 8, and now he's, like he said, he knows where to go.
I know what the encounter screens are. For the most part, I kind of forget where some of them are in this chapter because I have Ramapos up so much, and when I'm doing the route, it's pretty normal. I actually thought about opening up the maps that I have, and then I decided against it.
So here we're going back 3,000 years into the past because if you tried to go fight the boss of this chapter in the present,
hey, listen,
it would be way too strong. Hey, listen, I love it. Yeah, this is Fairyville.
This game came out before Ocarina of Time.
An actual way in which this game possibly influenced Zelda is in having a fairy say, hey, listen.
Yes.
He's got to be a fighter for this little bit of story. And also we're about to do some shopping. Like I said, we needed all that money for class changes and blah, blah, blah. So he changes into a fighter because that allows him to get a discount in this shop while he does all of this shopping. He's going to buy 3 carpets, that he has to do individually for a discount. 2 mushrooms, just for some safety in the final chapter. 10 breads, because he's got plenty of money, and this boss is horrible.
I'm gonna do this.
And he's gonna buy an R-Seed, because he's got extra money. And that R-Seed will actually let you walk kind of over water and make you invincible for a short period of time.
Oh wait, repay, what? No. I'm not repaying the loan.
Oh, thank you for not clicking repay all.
I got confused. I've never tried to repay my loan in this game.
Yeah. I believe it wasn't clear for early speedruns of this game whether or not you actually needed to repay the debt in order to beat it, but you do not, and you shouldn't.
Yes.
Because that shopkeeper is a jerk.
I saved the world. I don't need to pay back things like loans.
Right.
What is that? So the confusion actually stems from the Japanese version of the game, where it is a requirement because something you need to get in the game is gated behind that spell.
Yeah.
Or I mean, behind the loan.
Behind having no debt.
Yeah. So, is this? Okay, that's 5, 6, 7. Okay, so I can't have Ramapos my first encounter in the castle, and then I should be good. I think.
That's true, Little Nari. If you take too long in any one chapter and you have debt, the shopkeeper will come by and remind you that you have debt and tell you how much it is now because you actually accrue interest.
Oh wow, I've never spent that much time in a chapter, I guess. I'm surprised I didn't come up in the randomizer at some point. Those can take a while.
That's true. I think it's kind of a long time. Like I think you might have to spend like an hour in a chapter, and that never happens in the rando. Okay, so this rain shrimp Rainy, who beats his rain drum to make it rain, he asks you 2 questions. If you answer incorrectly to either of those 2 questions, it is a game over. Earlier when we got Kibaboo, Kibaboo asks you if you've ever tried to pick up a girl in a hamburger shop, because Kibaboo only likes gentlemen. And if you answer incorrectly to that, she just kicks you out, and you can come back in and try again. But by the time you get to Rainy, the consequences are a little bit more dire. It is a game over. Rainy says, he's a coward, and he needs a strong fighter who's brave to go on this quest. And if you answer incorrectly and tell him that yes, you are afraid of anything, or that salamander makes you afraid, he says, "Hey, okay, let's stay inside."
Mm-hmm.
Horrible.
And he needs a big, strong man.
Yep.
Or something along those lines.
And there's so we've talked about these kind of weird things like this password and these questions and stuff. If you talk to everybody, I mean, I think one of those fairies that you talk to in Farville tells you that you need Rainy for this quest, right? Mm-hmm. One of the crabs in the town where Rainy is tells you that Rainy will only follow a fighter. So if you talk to everybody in the game and make note of what they say, and think about what they say, the game is actually really not that hard to figure out. It's confusing and the map is huge, but it does a really good job of kind of planting hints around so that you can figure out your way through most of the puzzles. There's one maze in Chapter 2 that we skipped that is just kind of unnecessarily annoying, but other than that, it's pretty good.
There'll be some flashing again here in just a moment. So, yeah. There it is.
Yeah, he's coming up on a wizard fight.
Whoops, too early.
He's going to turn Warhammer into a baby.
Yes, which I ruthlessly murdered before you could even see it appear.
That spell, there's kind of 3 levels of the shrink spell. What's the first one?
Koroba?
It's not Karaba, that's the 3rd one.
Korbak.
Korbak, thank you. So there's Korbak, Shrink, and Karaba. It turns enemies into sometimes humorous things, sometimes just a fly or a baby.
Last chance for encounter all game. You get
turns
it?
One of the wizards into
you got it.
Into a hamburger.
Please, what?
Stuck in a second fight on the...
Firebolt is the strongest spell in the game. Unfortunately, it doesn't do a whole... Or, fortunately, it doesn't do a whole lot to one person. If I had a party with other people that I brought in, they would be getting wrecked. In fact, all this stuff would be hitting really hard. I'm still getting hit. I'm still getting rocked pretty hard, but...
Yeah, 40 damage on that one hit. That's a lot. Okay, there you go. There are there 2? There are 2 potentially like
up here.
Well, yes, there's flashing warnings for 2 wizard fights coming up.
I'm just gonna delay the flashing as long as I can while I heal up.
Yeah. There are 2 kind of instant death attacks that enemies can do, right? There's Mana Burn.
Yeah, in Gigatorn.
Gigatorn.
That's good enough. My hand was starting to hurt. The game is kind enough to give you a heal spell really early on, but not kind enough to give you an upgraded heal spell for a very long time.
Yeah, until kind of like way after you actually need it. It would be so useful in Chapter 3, because it would pretty much entirely remove the need for that death that you take in Chapter 3. You notice that these wizards have projectiles that they shoot out. They also have minions, but
big
the
flashing coming up.
If you get hit by those projectiles twice, you get transformed into a thing, and then if a minion touches you, you instantly die. And yeah, here's the worst part of the game. Good luck.
Sally, be a pally.
Be a pally. This is Salamander. This is the baby version of Salamander. We've gone 3,000 years into the past to murder a baby. It's a demon, so it's okay. There's a single tile above that middle eye that you're aiming for. It has 255 HP. It regains 50 HP every time it enters the fire field and comes back out, and he's dealing 16 damage to it every hit. So you need to be doing 4 hits per cycle just to make progress against it.
Yep.
The other thing that you don't really have like kind of information about is that Rainy has MP that gets used up every time it beats the rain drum to make it rain, so that Salamander will come out. So if this takes longer than 15 or 16 cycles, Rainy will run out of MP and you have to leave and refill. This can be done at this level with this weapon. This can be done in 2, I think. If you're exceedingly lucky and task-like, it can be done in 2 cycles. It can be done in 3 by human for sure, because we've seen it.
Because you've done it.
Yeah, we generally aim for... I generally aim for like 5 would be awesome if I was doing a PB attempt and I got a 5-cycle Salamander.
The best I've ever done in an actual run is 5. I got 4 once in practice, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm actually within range. I could take him out, and this is the 4th round. I've had a 5, a 7, and a 6. Pretty good. Bizarrely good. I'm very confused.
You needed a 7 or an 8, probably, in this point. This movement is random. Whether or not it's moving fast or slow is random. And you've got, is it 4.5 seconds on the first half of the cycle and 4 seconds on the second half, or 3.5 on the second half?
Yeah, I think it's 4.5 and 3.5. Like an even 8 seconds in each 40-second rotation that you can hit the boss.
Yeah.
Which again, in the Japanese version, apparently his hitbox is the entire screen.
His hitbox is huge. In the Japanese version of this game, it's like I don't understand why they decided to make this so difficult. If you're playing through this casually and you know get all the way up to level 20 and you get the rod upgrade in this chapter, it's really is not an issue. Yeah, 4 will do it now. He's got that little magic pixel of HP, magic invisible pixel.
This is a great amount of hit points when you run out of time and Rainy gets tired and it's just he has no hit points. But he's not done yet. Worse things have happened.
Yes.
Okay, that was really nice.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. I've been in that exact situation and then lost the fight.
Yes.
Because you can have, you know, a round where you do 0 damage to him and then he gains 50 HP.
That was a 6-round fight. That is the fastest I've ever seen in a marathon setting.
Yes, that is really good.
Better than our practice run. The practice commentated run where I failed to kill Salamander.
Yeah, we actually had to pull out the emergency backup strats on that.
There's a marathon-only strat, not speedrun allowed. That the game actually gives you passwords that you can use to recover in a chapter or start with everything you can possibly have in a chapter. They're very easy passwords to figure out, and it makes the game easy. It also allows us to do ILs for the speedrun, which we have. I'm last place in like every one of them, I think, but...
That can't be right. I'm sure you're beating me in a couple of them.
I think everyone...
Our Barbalut, who is the world record holder for this game, also I think has the world record in all of the ILs.
Yes.
But I don't think I'm second in all the ILs.
I think you are. Maybe not chapter 1. I might have got you on that.
Yeah. So then we got Hassan. He's the final companion for the game, and he's kind of awesome. And Aaron is about to do something that's quite new. Well, actually, at this point, all of 2020 is a blur to me. But it's relatively new. I think it was discovered in January of 2020. It's a little skip that saves about 4 or 5 minutes, something like that. And he's just basically walking to it.
It was
like we said that most of the stuff in this game you can't really skip. It turns out there is one item that was generally thought to be required to beat the game that you don't need. You don't need the sword upgrade, so we actually don't get any sword upgrades.
It's just sad because being a fighter with the sword is actually pretty fun to do casually. It's just not very good because the sword attacks all of the bosses shrug off the sword. So, but it's probably the funnest way to play it casually when you get swords shooting out beams, basically.
Yeah, especially the legend sword. So you're about to see the legend sword skip. Yep. The legend sword, when you're a fighter, is quite formidable. So he walks into this town so that it becomes a target for a carpet, and then we walk up north to where you would normally have to take the legend sword, but it turns out that you can just kind of walk on water and don't have to worry about it. Are you going to use the R-Seed for that, or are you going to...
Yeah, might as well. You do not need to use what I'm going to use, but I had the money, and it's safer. Which again, in our practice, I game overed because I failed to do this correctly. Let's see.
So this actually takes advantage of that grid, the movement grid that I was talking about before. You walk down a little bit, walk left, you walk down a little bit, walk left, and you can actually just kind of make progress down there, and you walk here. Normally you'd have to walk between those two trees holding the sword, and it would create a bridge, and then you could come down here, but instead you just come here, get the armor of light, and then harp it back to that town that he left before.
Yep.
A lot of dedicated channels for the Magic of Scheherazade. I am not sure what you mean. I mean, there are a couple of us that run it pretty frequently. The top 3 runners for this game have a tendency to run this a lot.
I forgot to put this back on. Crap. Okay, I still got out. Yeah, the people that I know who currently run this game, Synthpop does intermittently, I do intermittently. If our Barbaloot is on, he runs it a lot, but he doesn't really stream that often. There's some other people that I know who are going to be running it soon. I have, through the magic of channel points, challenged Mr. PUBG to run the game. So I believe he will be doing that soon. Safdresh said he's going to get back to it this year. He's mostly does like Castlevania, Willow. He's a really good speedrunner of those games. But he
also,
hasn't...
Vaughn, I believe, is supposed to be playing this game sometime this year. Is that right, Vaughn? Putting you on the spot, man. Yeah, there are, like 8 runs on the board now. One of those players, I think, is probably never going to play it again.
Yeah, that's Darkwing Duck. He was one of the, he had the world record for quite a while. Like, he really optimized, a certain route of the game, which I'm not doing. It's what we call an Eclipse route, where you fight Salamander at level 19 with the crystal. Makes it a whole lot easier. He takes him down in 2 rounds.
Yeah, that's why I said at level 17 and with that rod, it's still possible to do it in 2.
Yes. When I say crystal, that's the weapon upgrade in Chapter 4, which we skip because it's money and it's out of the way.
In the Eclipse route, you actually need to burn some time in Chapter 4 to get the Eclipse to show up. And so you do some level grinding in a different spot that is right next to where you get the crystal.
There's less money, but a lot more experience. But you don't have to worry about money too much, because part of that is getting a spell that gets all of the great magic in World 1 you cast after you get to that Eclipse, which I don't get because I don't wait around for it. So
yeah, that great magic fills all of your items to the max and gives you full rupees, 999 rupees, and clears your debt if you have one.
Yes, the magic debt clearer.
It's awesome. I miss that spell so much.
Yeah,
it's so great to have.
If it's something that's really useful in a speedrun, you can just imagine at some point somebody's going to find a way to get rid of it.
Yeah, and we did that route up until the creation of the first, our Barbaloot's first task for this game. There was one before his first one. but it ended up being slower than human runs. But
I
here we
found
go.
that task, by the way.
There's a little bit of a twist here at the end, so spoiler alert, but
Yep.
Sabaron made a huge mistake, and he cannot control Gora. So he asks you to tell him who is the princess, who is Scheherazade, and says that she's been with you the whole time. Surprise, surprise, it is our friend, the time spirit Corona.
He says if you do not do it, he said all 3 of us will die. Well, it says 3 people will die, but it's kind of included that him, you, and her are all gonna go crazy. Or I mean, like you're all just gonna get. She's gonna go crazy because she can't control her mutated form, or something like that. Anyway, oops. But
that is an interesting take on what is supposed to happen if you fail that. But so again, like I said before, when you know, like with Kibaboo and Rainy, when the Cimarron tree asks, it just kicks you out and you can try again. If you give Sabaron the wrong password, it is a game over. It's not a death, it's just game over. So there's the final level up that he's going to take here. That Merida spell is the upgraded heal spell, but we don't need it now.
Forgot I need to cast this. And that's the last, the Flashing Magicians, which we forgot to mention. Sorry.
Yeah, like I said, I always forget the magicians.
They're still flashing, because...
There is still a ton of flashing coming up.
I apparently only speedrun games that flash. Like crazy, at least NES games. Oh, wait.
So there's a little bit of a maze here, as you can see. If you go through the maze in the right direction, the walls stay red. It's not too hard to figure out. If you go the wrong way, it just teleports you back to the beginning of the maze and you have to try again.
Yeah, this isn't something that you have trouble figuring out casually, if you're paying any sort of attention. So I have to stand on stand on the moon, stand on the sun, and stand on the star. Shoot this pillars, they break apart, and you prepare for the final boss, which again will include quite a bit of flashing. So,
as you can see right now, it's already flashing.
Yes.
So it is possible to beat this boss in one cycle. We're hoping that happens, but he's got backup mushrooms just in case.
Yes, if you look at my magic, I will be at 8 magic, which is how a normal speedrun for me will end. But I did take some backup so I can screw this up and still possibly win.
So it's 5 casts of Bolt or 3, and then 12 hits on that little rotating ball.
In time. So...
GG.
Yes. That went pretty well.
Yeah, 102.05. That's awesome.
Or flashing. Sorry. You would think that they would be done with the game being over, but no. That's alright. I believe Synthpop is... I shouldn't put him on the spot here because it's unfair to say somebody's working on something and build up expectations. But I believe he's trying to work on a ROM hack that will disable the flashing.
Yes, I'm having some trouble with that. I was hoping to have it ready for tonight's run, but it's not quite there yet.
Right.
But there will be available something where you can play this game if you have photosensitivity issues and not worry about flashing.
Yeah.
It'll be probably listed on the resources page on speedrun.com.
Sounds good to me. So.
If you're interested in running this game, there are guides up for the Eclipse route and the Eclipseless route, depending on which one you want to do. The Eclipse route is pretty obsolete at this point, but it's there just in case.
You can You can still get a sub 110 with the Eclipse route, as long as you do the Legend skip in Chapter 5. I believe Runner Final Effect does something close to it. I don't think he waits for the Eclipse, but he does grind to level 19. But I don't think he gets the Crystal too, so he just does a lot of extra money grinding, but still manages to get to the boss before doing it. I don't know if he rerouted everything, it would be faster or not. Probably would be, but he's just doing that because Salamander is... I don't want to say he's a beginner wall, because he's a wall to advanced players too. That 6-round Salamander, I would say that we get that sort of good RNG and fight 20% of the time. Maybe. Maybe. It's usually a lot worse than that. So that went well. And the thing with that fight is the longer it goes on, the worse it gets. You start trying to heal, you lose a whole bunch of time. But it's a great run.
If you run out of breads in that fight, you might as well stop.
Yeah. Like you saw, I bought as much as I could.
Yeah.
So, here at the end, with your courage against evil and your love to long for peace, you will continue to fight.
Well, the time door will open again soon.